What's going on, wrestling family? Welcome back to the channel. I'm sorry I'm not at home. I'm doing some updates to the recording area, but that doesn't keep me from doing my Royal Rumble 2024 review. Now, before we get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Help me on my goal to 10K subscribers. We are right around the corner, people. Thank you so much for your support. And before we get to the review, guys, I want to say a quick salute to the Flex Zone podcast and to Kicking It with Leo for having me on their Royal Rumble live stream last night. It was so much fun. Thank you for the people who came up and showed out to support me. I greatly appreciate you guys. Subscribe to their channel. But without further ado, let's get into the reason why you clicked on this video. So let's start off with the first event of the night, and it is the ladies Royal Rumble of this year, which I thought was a whole lot of fun, and it ramped up into something a lot more entertaining towards the end, which I appreciate them for doing. So let's talk about the surprises, or maybe not so surprises depending on who you are. We saw Naomi return to WWE, which isn't a surprise. We saw her lose her TNA Knockouts Championship belt on Hard to Kill at TNA to Jordynne Grace, and we have video footage of her basically saying farewell to the TNA wrestling family. So we just knew it was a matter of time that she was going to come back to WWE, and last night was the night that she returned. Now, what was really interesting and slightly surprising is how early she came out to the Royal Rumble. Now, when she came out that early, I was like, okay, well, they're going to have her come in early, throw her out, do her dirty. But no, they didn't do that. She actually stayed in the ring for a long time, which was kind of refreshing and interesting to see that happen, which I hope that this is a sign of what they could possibly do with her down the line in WWE to book her properly, because I love to see when people do leave WWE kind of get a championship belt outside of it, make a name for themselves, and then return to to WWE and they get booked properly, because they pretty much showed them like, hey, I do have some worth, I do have some fans that want to see me. So the way they handled Naomi, I thought was a fantastic way to do it. Also, the other bigger surprise, speaking of TNA, was Jordynne Grace coming out to WWE Royal Rumble, being as yoked up as she can, you know what I'm saying? All yoked up, coming in with that beautiful TNA Knockouts Championship belt. TNA is showing these mugs how to design belts, bro. They got some beautiful belts over there. Fantastic job. But it's very interesting because of the fact that she came there that way, right? And the idea of someone coming from TNA to WWE Royal Rumble is not a surprising thing. We saw Mickie James do that before. But to come out with that belt on WWE, very interesting, right? Because if this was Vince McMahon booking this, first of all, she probably wouldn't even showed up, which I wouldn't blame her. But if she did show up under the suggestion of Vince McMahon, he would have had her come out, come into the ring, get tossed out. Somebody would have stepped on that TNA Knockouts belt and then broke it in half and then threw it into the crowd. Like, they would have did something so disrespectful. But I love the fact that Triple H was so respectful with her. He let her stay in the ring so long. She had some great spots. She looked so good in the ring in WWE. I just love how Triple H is handling this stuff, but it was a big surprise for me. And I don't pay attention to news articles and outlets like that, so I didn't have in mind who I think was actually going to be there. All right, so moving on to the other person that was kind of not so much of a surprise. These two ladies coming up from NXT. We had Roxanne Perez and Tiffany Stratton coming up, which was great. Tiffany Stratton looked really great in the ring. I love Roxanne Perez. I've been watching her since Reality of Wrestling, and I love the fact that in NXT, they're having her do more, I guess, dangerous spots as far as her matches. But in the Royal Rumble, they did their thing. Another surprise entrant was Jade Cargill. All right, she's back, people. She's back. Storm is back, and she came in. And I'm glad that she's finally back. I know her mom just passed, so prayers out to her family and people dealing with that entire situation. But for her to come back was very, very interesting, and how strong she looked in the ring, because when I watched her in AEW, one of the main things I said about her, even when she was a champion, she looked a little green in the ring, okay? She was a little Grinchous in the ring, and it was no disrespect to her. It was just like, it felt like her being a champion was kind of premature over there. And as time goes on, you've seen her develop a little bit more, but it felt like she never really got to that spot. So I'm not going to lie and say that at this Royal Rumble, all of a sudden she turned into Bret Hart or something like that. But she did look really good in this match. She had great spots, and if this is a sign of things to come, I'm very excited to see what she has to do in the future with WWE. Like the spot that she had when she tossed out Nia Jax and Becky Lynch face looked like that Pikachu meme. She just looked shocked seeing that happen. Great spot for her. The spot where her and Bianca Belair stood face to face, a great spot at that moment. And I feel like that is a possibility that it could be Jade Cargill versus Becky Lynch at WrestleMania when they were standing next to each other. Maybe I'm looking too much into that, but that could be a sign of that. And also, Speaking of Jordynne Grace, the spot where the spot where she got KO'd on the apron was a crazy spot from Bianca Belair. But I felt like overall this was a great Women's Royal Rumble. And the last surprise entrant was my girl Liv Morgan. I know people were happy to see her. They've been waiting for her to come back, but unfortunately WWE has made the decision to have her come out at number 30, and the crowd looked like they was not happy, bro. They looked like they was ready to leave at that moment. And unfortunately, I don't think the problem was that it was Liv Morgan. I think the problem was that people expected it to be someone bigger or more surprising, like a Sasha Banks or something like that. And I think people just got to realize that just because it makes sense and it's the Royal Rumble, it doesn't necessarily mean those people will come out. I think people are also expecting that maybe it'll be AJ Lee. Just because it makes sense, it doesn't mean she's going to come out. And I would think with Triple H, I think Triple H just has some fun swerving people. I feel like AJ Lee is going to show up at some point, just not at this Royal Rumble. Of course, it's too late for her to do that. But at the end of the day, it's very unfortunate for Liv Morgan in that moment. But if they're going to go with her being a heel, I think this will be a great opportunity and some great material for her to use to turn on the crowd. And she just dropped a t-shirt where it says "Cry About It." So maybe she's talking about the fans who were upset that it wasn't Sasha Banks or it wasn't AJ Lee, and you got Liv Morgan, so deal with it. So if that's the case, and she's going into Elimination Chamber and possibly in winning that match, it would be great to see her versus Rhea Ripley, right? I know people are expecting Becky versus Rhea, but I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. But if it's Liv versus Rhea, full circle. But at the end of the day, Bayley won the Royal Rumble, and I was so happy about that, even though it was very, very, very predictable. But it's so great to Bayley because all 2022, 2023, she was taking L's left and right, losing every match she could possibly lose. I know she won some in there, I get it, but for the most part, she has pretty much a 95% losing record at the end of the day. So by her winning the Royal Rumble, I was happy for her after taking all those losses. And also, when it comes to the 4 Horsewomen, she is the one who hasn't had the most accolades as far as the 4 Horsewomen. I mean, as far as memorable accolades. So she finally got this memorable moment as far as winning the Royal Rumble, and I'm happy for her. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next with her. Now, moving on to the next match, which was the Fatal 4-Way match between AJ Styles, LA Knight, Roman Reigns, and Randy Orton, which it was a pretty predictable match. We all knew Roman Reigns was going to win. It kind of happened the way that I predicted it, that Randy Orton was going to hit Roman Reigns with the RKO. Bloodline's going to get involved, which was only Solo Sikoa, and it went the way that we thought. You know, I kind of feel like that they should have kind of added to the feud between LA Knight and AJ Styles if they are going to continue that. But if not, you know, it is what it is. And I feel like Roman Reigns' entrance to the ring was a lot longer than the match. I think he heard everybody saying that he's never on TV. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to take all them hours that I've been missing on TV and use it up on walking down the ramp. I'm going to take 8 weeks to walk down the ramp. And I'm like, dang, Roman, we know it's you, bro. You don't have to be Undertaker. But at the end of the day, it was a fun match, very predictable. When matches are very predictable, it kind of takes the excitement out of it, but I could appreciate the match for what it was. And the same thing goes for the Kevin Owens versus Logan Paul match for the U.S. Championship belt, which overall was a fun match. I felt like it was a smart ending though, but the part that was confusing is Grayson Waller coming out to give Logan Paul the brass knuckles, and I'm like, okay, are they starting a faction with Logan Paul being the head of Grayson Waller and Austin Theory? I don't know. Maybe I missed something. You guys let me know. But at the end of the day, Kevin Owens went for a pin on Logan Paul with the brass knuckles on his hand. Before the referee hit the 3 count, he saw the brass knuckles on Kevin Owens' hand and disqualified him, so he lost the match, which was surprising because I'm like, dang, when did referees start getting LASIK, bro? In the NFL and in wrestling, they can't see nothing, and all of a sudden, this guy got 20/20 vision. It's weird. He's been eating his carrots today. But I thought that was a smart ending for them to continue this feud between these two gentlemen. And maybe they'll get another match at Elimination Chamber. Hopefully it's a no disqualification, no holds barred, street fight, whatever the case may be. And possibly Sami Zayn will get involved in that match. So I thought it was a fun match, predictable ending. But at the end of the day, these two matches, it had to be in the middle. I know it was weird to see that Roman match so early, but you had to give the audience some breather moving into the next Royal Rumble match. Now, speaking of that, we had the men's Royal Rumble match, which, in my personal opinion, didn't have too many surprises, in my personal opinion. Although it was great to see Andrade Cien Almas show up, we knew he was coming. His girl is in WWE. He's not going to be too far away from it. And Grayson Waller was raising her up on the wall and on a Grayson Waller effect. So he's like, yo, I got to go over there. But I'm all joking, but it was good to see him back. But outside of that, there wasn't any surprise at all in this one. Even with Sami Zayn coming at the end, we knew he was coming, but for him to be number 30 was kind of interesting. And we know that Brock Lesnar had that whole wrap up with Vince McMahon and all that stuff happening, so we knew he wasn't going to be there. So maybe that, but then that wouldn't really be a huge surprise either. And what's interesting about this Royal Rumble this year is that with the men's and the ladies, there really wasn't a legend that showed up. There's usually like a Molly Holly that show up. I was like, maybe Abyss would show up, maybe Kane would show up, maybe somebody. It don't even have to be anyone specific. It could be a legend that no one even remembers, but no legend showed up the whole night, which was interesting because I feel like they always try to do that. But maybe the TNA show-ups, you know, Andrade, Naomi, Jordan Grace, maybe those individuals showing up, maybe that's what made up for the legends. They're like, we're going to have TNA people come in, or people who were WWE went to AEW and come back, have them show up as opposed to legends. Maybe that's what it was going for. But at the end of the day, it was an interesting match for the men, which converted into a singles match between Cody Rhodes and CM Punk at the end, which extended the match out really long, bro. Although I loved it, it was long, bro. It was way too long at the end. But I guess they wanted to drum up the suspense, and maybe they felt like, hey, we didn't give people the interest that they wanted, so we want to give them an actual, really good pay-per-view match at the end. And I thought it was pretty good at the end. At the end, Cody Rhodes won, which a lot of people expected CM Punk to win this match, which was an interesting choice. But at the same time, if you think about it, I thought that CM Punk would win this, and then Cody Rhodes, since he seems to be that person to fight through adversity to get where he wants to finish his story, it would make more sense for him to fight through the Elimination Chamber to get to an opportunity to finish his story. But for him to win the Royal Rumble was an interesting choice. I don't know if Seth Rollins' injury had something to do with that change, possibly. I don't know. I don't talk to the people in the back. But at the end of the day, I guess it makes sense. Cody Rhodes on the cover of WWE 2K24. That's some marketing dollars there. He's heading to WrestleMania. Maybe he's going to go on an advertisement tour. So I'm not mad at that, but I just thought CM Punk winning would make all the sense in the world. So it's going to be really interesting to see what CM Punk has to say if he shows up on Monday Night Raw about his loss at Royal Rumble. But at the end of the day, guys, the women's Royal Rumble was probably the most interesting one, including the surprises, and it was a lot more fun than the rest of the matches on this card, even the ones sandwiched in between the two Royal Rumbles, which were, even though the first ending was pretty predictable with Bayley winning, it was still a fun ride to get there. The two in the middle was pretty predictable, and the matches were okay to good. And then the men's Royal Rumble, in my personal opinion, was a little bit lackluster. But I don't want to be a complainer. But overall, if I wanted to say anything about this Royal Rumble, I thought it was a pretty good one. It wasn't a terrible one. It wasn't one of the greatest one, but it was very serviceable. It did its thing. So what do you guys think about the Royal Rumble? Let me know in the comment section. Salute, peace, have a good day.